Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Empower Hour. This is a broadcast we do every single Sunday morning, my time, where we help XJWs get beyond some of the things that can easily trip us up as we try to move forward in our lives. And today we're going to delve into an area we usually don't. We usually don't spend much time at all talking about the witnesses and what they're doing. Our group's kind of created to be like that, where we're always focused about moving forward. But I thought it was important to address some of the recent changes with the JWs because people are being contacted by their families because of some of the recent changes, and there's just been a whole lot of action with people who are ex-JWs, a whole lot of concern, a whole lot of angst and anxiousness because of it. So I think it's very important to address so that you can handle things the right way. So first, we'll kind of get into why they make the decisions they make so that you can kind of put it in a proper perspective and maybe not freak out so much when changes happen. Um, like any kind of business, like any kind of corporation or anything like that, when things aren't going well, you got to make moves, right? So there have been a lot of changes, like men can have facial hair, and I guess the new change is that women can wear dresses and men don't have to wear ties and all that kind of stuff. And basically, what you're dealing with is the fact that you have a generation of people who cannot be led by fear anymore. So for a lot of us, we grew up with fear over our heads. A lot of doomsday religions came out in the 1800s. Uh, the witnesses, the Adventists, there were a lot of doomsday, Armageddon is coming tomorrow kind of religions. And that was a time where people were very gullible. I mean, that was the time of the traveling circus and, the snake oil salesman and all kinds of stuff. People were very gullible and they'd listen. You could control people with fear back then. But this generation coming up now, the people who are, I'd say, 30 and below, you cannot move them with fear. These are kids that were never spanked. They're different. It doesn't work anymore. And they're going to keep loosening up their constraints to keep these people in. Why? Because preaching doesn't work anymore. Because even if you have somebody who's interested, the first thing they're going to do is Google. And it's a wrap, right? So they don't grow in developed countries. They only grow in countries that are undeveloped. Hence, you see all the selling of the kingdom halls where it used to be quick builds, right? We got all these quick builds and assembly halls and things being built. Well, they're selling all this because they're not growing. So they're making it less constrictive for people so that they stick around. So it's not something where it's so contrasting to the rest of the world. So you can predict that there'll be more changes that make some things that were black and white wrong. It's going to be more of a conscious matter. They're going to come up with that new light, more conscious matter things, and it's all madness. So just understand it's all badness, and they're going to do what they need to do to keep going, keep growing. The other change was that the big change is that they can talk to disfellowship people now briefly, right? Say hello and have brief conversations or whatever. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that they lost their designation in Denmark, and they're suing Denmark, and Denmark took away their designation because of the shunning. So they probably want to have it in their book saying we don't shun that type of stuff. But also, I believe that it could be that they're just not growing. So you've got to go get the people who are still indoctrinated, who might be disfellowship. There's a lot of disfellowship people that still believe it, and they believe it and they crave their families, right? So again, that's another way to stabilize and right the ship. So that's all it is. And just look at it like a company that is desperate, that times are changing and they have to change with the times or there'll be no more. Everything changes, nothing stays the same. Everything changes, and they're going to change to stay afloat. Okay, so on one level, we need to get to the place in life where we don't care. But on another level, if your family's contacting you, you've got to care. I mean, it's your family. So that's why we're addressing it today. A lot of people had reached out to me and asked me what I think about it, what I feel about it. And personally, I could care less. Personally, I could care less what witnesses do. Doesn't affect my life one bit. I really feel like even though I'm affected by some of the shunning personally, I really feel like life won't be what you want it to be as long as you're in it, no matter what. So personally, I don't care, but it's something that needs to be addressed because a lot of you are affected by it, and that's why we're doing this today. Understand, first of all, in the shunning that you faced up to this point, don't fool yourself feeling like your family doesn't love you. Feels like it. Try to take it, and it's hard. Try your best not to take what's happened personally because we all have the same story. So if we all have the same story, it means it's a matter of programming. It's not their actual feelings. So the organization is between you and their actual feelings. It's blocking it. It's programming. It's mental programming that was really put there through fear. Fear of displeasing Jehovah. The witnesses have made what they call God and their organization one. They actually worship their organization, right? And they fear displeasing that. Look, in the blink of an eye, they're reaching out to everybody because their organization said so. So they are programmed. It's no different than Jim Jones when he had that cult and they went down to Jonestown, Guyana, and they all drank the Kool-Aid, right? I mean, they were following a man, but that man fused himself with God. So what he says was the word of God. Witnesses are no different, and they're acting out in desperate ways to try to stay afloat. The world is changing. There's too much information out there. You cannot rule people with fear. You cannot blind people forever. And again, this new generation is different. They're information filled. Back in the day, if we wanted to question something, we had to go to a library or find a bunch of books, old books, and read a book that's that fat and underline the parts that were wrong. It took a lot of study. Now you just Google any term, any word, and boom, there you are. So now it's playing on people's emotions. Your family's reaching out because they do love you. They don't know how to express that love. They don't know how to not have an agenda attached to everything because that's the way they're wired. With witnesses, their only acceptance are people in the box, people in their circle. That's the acceptance. Everything outside this box is attached to an agenda. So witnesses go door to door with an agenda. Do they really care about mankind? Not really. If there's a disaster, they're walking by all the homes to go work on brother so and so's house, right? Not really caring about their neighbor. It's with an agenda. So a lot of you are being contacted by your families. Not only did they have this change, but the memorial season is also coming up. So a lot of you will be contacted. And some of you who have not been contacted in years because of being disfellowship are being contacted. How do you handle that? Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to mentally make a mental adjustment that will help you. And I've said this on other broadcasts. You have to begin to see yourself as evolving out of the beliefs. You're evolving, you're bigger. You know more. You know everything they know, and you know everything they don't know. You are bigger. You're expanding. As you expand, they and it become smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you don't make this mental adjustment, you will stay small and they will remain big. So when something big approaches you, when something imposing approaches you, when something intimidating opposes you, you shrink up. You shrink up and you get small. And when we get small, we get angry. And we want to fight this thing because we're being attacked. We give them all the power. You need to take the power from them, and flip the script. You are now large. You have grown. You have expanded. You have more knowledge. And they're exactly the same as they've always been. When your mother or your father approaches you, maybe they're sending you a video. Some people are getting videos or whatever they're doing. When they approach you, understand that they are exactly the same people they've been your entire life. You may be 50 years old, right? And your parents might be in their 70s or 80s, and they're approaching you with exactly the same mindset they had when you were 5. They haven't changed. They don't change. They can't grow because they get all the information from one source. And the only time it feels like they grow is when they're given some kind of new light. They're the same people. You're not. You're big. They're small. So when they approach you, understand they're approaching you with that smallness. No need to freak out. No need to go in your shell. No need to be fearful. You show your bigness. So when approached, try this. Ask them this question. Say they approach you, they ask you if you've watched the video, or that, hey, they've changed their policy and whatever. We love you so much, and won't you come back, or whatever they say. Ask them this question. Write this down if you have a pen and pad. Mom and dad, brother, sister, whoever it is, can I ask you a question? Remember, questions put people in a corner. Don't argue with people. Arguments just go on and on. Ask questions. The question is, do you love me unconditionally? That's a yes or no question. When you ask a question, don't let them deviate and but and do all these things that's taking it off the path. Stay on the path. Do you love me unconditionally? I love you without conditions. Do you love me unconditionally? And you wait. They're not used to that question. You see, you've taken them off their script. Witnesses did not teach them how to answer that question. Next question. Are you open to a mutually respectful and reciprocal relationship? Ooh, how do you answer that? Are you open to a mutually respectful and reciprocal relationship? And reciprocal, I mean, we play by the same rules. It's not a one-way street. Are you? With those two questions, you've just taken the power. You've just taken the power. You've thrown them off their script, and you're doing nothing but speaking of love. Remember, love is the most powerful force in the world. When you speak to love, people don't know how to respond. Can we accept each other? Can we accept each other's differences and still love each other? Can we? Mom, can we accept each other's differences and still love each other in a respectful way? Can we do that? Watch them get all tongue tied. You're not only taking the power, you're giving them something to think about. You're not attacking their religion at all. You're not attacking their beliefs at all. You're not coming up with all this vitriol and anger that you've been storing up for years at all. You're letting them know that you are open. It will be hard for most people to answer yes to any of those questions, but it will also be hard for them to answer no to any of those questions. And if they give you some kind of thing that puts an agenda on it, then you say this: I love you. My door is always open for you when you are ready for a mutually respectful relationship, free of agenda from either one of us. I'm going to say that again. I love you. My door is always open for you when you are ready for a mutually respectful relationship, free of agenda from either one of us. So, what you're telling them is we're playing by the same rules. I'm not asking you for something that I wouldn't do. I'm going to respect you. I'm not going to push my thoughts on you. And I'm just asking you to do the same for me. Regardless of how they answer the questions, you let them know that you will occasionally be in touch. See, you open the door. They most times will take that because they still have an agenda. What you're doing is you're taking control. You're deciding how much we're hanging out. You see, they like to dangle a little treat in front of you, like come to the meetings and like a puppy. Just you give them treats so they follow you. You're not playing that game. Regardless if they say yes to it or they say no to it, let them know that you will occasionally be in touch, that you will occasionally catch them up on your life. Human beings ask this one question subconsciously all the time. And the question is, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Why do you think witnesses knock on empty doors for hours and hours and hours? And how many hours do people do something that's absolutely ineffective? Why do they do it? Because they want a prize. They want the new order. They're agenda based. That's why you do it. What other thing would you do that ineffective, and you do it regularly to get a prize? So when you flip the script, right, the door's open now, and when what'll happen is maybe every 3 months you write a letter to your parents, to your brother or sister, whoever it is, because now the door's open, right? You're using their new policy to your advantage. Catch them up with your life. Send pictures. If you have kids, send pictures of their grandkids or their niece and nephews. Catch them up. And slowly, a lot of people will begin to make excuses to be with you more. They'll make excuses because the witnesses cracked the door open. See, what you're trying to do is, with this policy change, you don't want to blow the door wide open and scare them. You want to take control and open the door slowly, more and more and more. Mom and Dad, here's a gift certificate. I know you like this kind of food. Go ahead, have a nice night. Love you. Here's some pictures of the kids. What's in it for me? Take advantage when it's Mother's Day or Father's Day. Don't do it on Mother's Day or Father's Day because they'll pick up on that. But when Mother's Day comes up, let that be a reminder for you, maybe 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, you do something special for mom. Which other of her kids is making her feel like somebody? Which other of her kids is giving her a gift? Come her birthday, Don't do it on her birthday. She'll pick up on that. But let her birthday be a reminder. I'm going to do something for mom. At some point, you're the one child that's saying, I love you. At one point, you're the one child that thinks of her and makes her feel like an individual. Witnesses, they aren't individuals. Everyone's part of the collective. When I was a witness, I got a gift when I graduated high school, and I got gifts when I got married. That's about it. Now that they've cracked the door, you keep widening that door by being something that they don't have in their life. I have been applying this for a long time, so this isn't new for me, right? My father is an elder. My father knows I run this group. My father won't cut me off. Why? Because he's got two other elder sons, and only this one says, I love you. Only this one gives gifts. Only this one tells him amazing qualities that he has. Oh, I'm also the difficult one. I'm also the one that has uncomfortable conversations, but he will not cut me off. So I want all of you to start applying this, apply this, use this crack that they gave you to keep opening the door up slowly. Let them know you're all about love. It's just love. Don't give them your anger. They're brainwashed. We all have the same story, which means it's not personal. They're brainwashed. The witnesses are going to make a lot of missteps. I'm telling you right now, some of these changes are missteps, not thought out. You've got to outthink them. The witnesses are not hard to outthink. Outthink them. React using your mind, not your emotions. Your emotions will make a mess of things. Don't look to get even. Remember, love is the biggest sword you can ever carry. Love. Being free from the witnesses is being free to love in an unconditional way. Be different. When they understand your love, that's what's hard to push away. When you want to get them back, it's not going to work. When you want to make them feel it and you make them pay, it's not going to work. Be beacons of love. Those questions that I laid out is all based in love. Love conquers fear. Love conquers everything. Love gives people conflict. What you're trying to create within them is mental conflict. Now, mind you, sometimes when people are mentally conflicted, they may want to pull back because they hate the conflict. So that may happen. Now, that being said, some of you should not use any of this. Some of you do much better just not having anything to do with your family. And if that's you, you know that's you. Some of you are just better off. Some people have issues that go far beyond even the JW stuff, abuse and all kinds of stuff. For some of you, it's best to leave it as it is. And you'll know if that's you. Okay. But always look through the lens of love. Lose the need to be right. That's where human beings many times get stuck, is you want to be right and you want to prove a point. Lose the need to be right. For some of you, you got parents that are so old, it's better that they stay right there. It's not our job to wake anybody up. Everyone's on their own personal journey in life. And for some people, they feel like this religion served their life and it made their life better. And that might be true for some people. And they've been in it for so long, it's kind of too late to wake up. My dad's 84 years old. I'd hate to wake him up. It's his everything. That'd be quite cruel of me to force my to take something like this and to make him see why this is wrong, and you guys keep changing things, and hey, did you know that you're changing this because of what's happening in Denmark, and you don't know, and I'm gonna prove it. That's He's 84 years old. How would you like to wake up at 84 and realize your life has been stuck in a lie? How would I like to wake up my dad and make him realize that his last 60 years was in an absolute lie? Do I want my dad to die alone? He's 84. He's got his old friends that he likes to go out in service with and do things with. Let him have that. Let him have that. Right. So don't think it's your obligation to wake anybody up. When it comes to waking people up, you gotta really think about that. My son doesn't talk to me, hasn't talked to me in 2 years. Right. Maybe I don't know, he might reach out, but it's not my job to wake him up. He's grown, he's almost 30 years old. Right? The consequence of waking him up on my terms might mean a divorce for him. Might mean he barely sees his daughter, and if that happened, and I've gotta allow him to walk his path instead of me thinking only about me. No, he made a decision, and he's got to, at some point, and I know he will, but he's going to have to disengage and untangle that on his terms, not mine. The loving thing to do is to think beyond yourself, to think about others, but to use this policy change to slightly open the door more and more and more. And maybe in this opening up, they wake up somewhere in the process for the people who are ready to wake up. Remember, people wake up in their own time. A person convinced against their will will be of the same opinion still. That's a good one. A person convinced against their will remain of the same opinion still. Just be love. Sometimes when you're that loving person, and you've grown so much, when your parents or your brothers or sisters do spend a little bit of time with you, and you obviously are a different person, and you obviously are a less angry person, and you obviously are a happy person, then when they get doubt, and trust me, as the witnesses make these policy changes, people wake up every time they do it, because people get resentful. Okay, wow, they're changing the disfellowshipping thing, and I haven't talked to my brother in 30 years. Wow. Wow, I was disfellowship before, and I came back, and I spent 20 years out. That pisses me off. You're gonna have a lot of that. See, the witnesses are between a rock and a hard place, because if they don't change, they are so outdated that people are gonna leave. But if they do change, then people will resent the things that they missed out on before, and people are going to leave. These doomsday religion, their days are numbered, basically. Um, and you'll see more of this. But be love. Be something that they want to be curious about. Create a life that's curious. See, that's why it's so important for ex-witnesses to move on, because people will follow people they admire. People will follow people they want to be like. If you are an example of a thriving life, that makes people curious. Like, maybe it's not so bad if I leave. But if you are just an angry ex-witness, if you are just somebody who are just pounding away at the witnesses, just pissed off, nobody wants to be like you. They don't want to be like you, they're not going to follow you. No, they're going to say, I'm happier where I'm at. I got a bunch of friends here. I got a bunch of people around me here. I know how it works here. Why do I want to be like you? And it's amazing how many angry people think they can wake people up. You're not gonna wake up anybody, because they don't want to follow you. They want to be like you. So get to that happy place. And again, take that door, you throw love in it. You crack that door, throw love, throw love, throw love. And that door, for a lot of you, will open and open and open. I would also like to say, don't get your hopes up, right? Temper your hopes, because if this does not work to their advantage, they'll simply change the rules again. See, they like to say stuff to the public so that they can officially say, we don't shun. But then, if this doesn't work to their advantage, they'll privately tell their members, or tell them a spiritually strong person would do this, or they're going to say something that controls their members to their own benefit. So don't get your hopes up, even though that change, it could change again tomorrow. This whole policy has changed many times. This is not new. They've had times where they said don't shun your family, then they said shun your family. They've been all over the place on this. So don't get your hopes up. Don't think that life's going to be the same again. It's not. It's not. you know um Sometimes are memories of what life was like when we were one of them, and we could fool ourselves and think if they change their policy, it's all going to be like it was. It's not. If you're not one of them, it won't be the same. This whole change is giving you crumbs so that they can boost their membership by having people who are still indoctrinated but this fellowship come back. That's part of what this is all about. It's where they can get new people, getting the people who are still indoctrinated to come back. Like I said earlier, because preaching doesn't work. It only works in third world countries. That's where all their growth is, right? Why? Well, let's not count time anymore. Why? Because their numbers are horrible. You can't show your numbers anymore. I mean, there's a million reasons why they do what they do. You have to really be focused on why you do what you do, right? Anyway, let's bring the panel up. Should be an interesting discussion. Desiree, Christine, Gary, and Dean. Uh, well, just open up the discussion. Who has a thought? Gary?
Okay. Yeah, I hate to be first because I had to do this a lot when I was in the other environment. I don't have to now, but anyway, I'm first today. Um, I think I always think when these changes occur is that the one constant thing about JWs is that they always have changes, always. In all the years 40 years I was in, it's always described as the chariot, the heavenly chariot. Why did they always have to say that? Because they're always changing. It's never the same from year to year. Lots of things are the same, but there are a lot of things that aren't. And so, well, you spoke to why the changes. It's because they're trying to get more membership, get members back. But when you really come down to it, it's still about control because they're not doing away with the shunning arrangement. All it is these little subtle things. I don't want to go into the detail like you didn't want to either, but it's just little subtle changes in when elders can approach them, what you can actually say to them at the meeting if they come to the meeting. You can actually say, "Nice to see you. I hope you come back." It really hasn't changed hardly anything at all. It might change a little bit more with family members, so they might be reaching out and everything. But all we can be sure of is that they'll always have changes, and it's all about the hidden agenda you were talking about. But what you really come down to it, they're still maintaining very, very tight control because the shunning thing is a terrifying thing. It keeps people in because they are afraid that the world is as horrible as the JWs taught us it is, and because we're not going to have their association anymore. So it's still designed to keep us in. And if we don't kind of get an appropriate grip on it as an ex-JW, I'm not going to say what appropriate is because that's what your whole thing was about. You've already said it. If we don't get an appropriate grip on it, they're still controlling us emotionally and mentally. So I think that's the important thing to realize is that this isn't the. I mean, you mentioned the beard thing, the women with slacks thing, the field service reporting thing. There's been all kinds of changes lately. There are going to be more next year. Maybe the next, I don't know, annual meeting will be more changes, and the year after that, and the year after that. You just get used to it, and just it's like whatever. And the principles that have been discussed today will always apply. Doesn't matter what they've changed. It's always going to apply that lead with love and let that be the guide. Can't hear you.
So yeah, you're right. Things are always going to change. It's they were becoming archaic, and you got to keep the young people in, right? So next thing you know, birthdays might be a conscious matter. Okay, remember you heard it here first. You can see
You
these
like
things coming from a mile away. I mean, you just have to laugh at it because if you just stand back and you look at things from a psychology point of view and you ask yourself, okay, what would I do if I was running this ship and it's sinking? What would I do? Well, yeah, I've got to get closer to the world in general because the chasm had gotten so big that the kids, I mean, they hit 18, 19, they're jumping, right? They're jumping ship. So it's got to be comfortable. I think it'll be more kind of like really a focus on the social part of things where people don't want to lose that because it's you've gotten to a point where you can't make predictions anymore. There's no way. Like back at the 1975 thing, well, that worked for people of that generation. You could put fear in them. They've made so many predictions that were wrong, and you just can't do that. That's what are you going to use to make people fear? Right? COVID. Oh God, the end. Well, okay, COVID came and went. I mean, it doesn't work. COVID was the worst thing for them. You see, COVID 50 years ago would have freaked everybody out. Right? You could have used that and took that and made that whatever. But COVID, they tried to act like that was, the beginning and the sign of the end. And COVID is when they was losing people like crazy. Zooms and not going to meetings. COVID was the worst thing, right? Because that's when people woke up. So you're just dealing with a different mindset. That old way of doing things, it just doesn't work anymore. There's a shift. There's a consciousness expansion that's happening on the planet, and yeah, it is what it is. Any other shares? Next, Christine.
Thank you. It's a really beautiful way to reframe people being, having the family reach out to them and to show up in love because love always wins for sure. And I thought that was a really good reframe. I had a friend reach out to me this week because she received the invitation to the memorial after 30 plus years of her sister not speaking to her. And so I just want to comment, you still have to deal with the emotions and the hurt and the anger and the rage that you still feel deep inside because it's nice to be acknowledged and have the invitation come in. But this beautiful friend was still, okay, yes, but why now? And what about all the other years that I have not been seen by them or shunned or hurt? And so it's that dichotomy of like grateful, but also screw you. Where have you been? And just feeling and dealing with those emotions. Something that I learned this week, it's a bilateral stimulation, and I'll put it into the Facebook group after the call. And it's how to move through emotions in less than 10 minutes. So if you put your hands on your lap, and you can do it now if you choose, and you just move your hand back and forth. So left side, right side, left side, right side. And you'll notice that your hands will move based on your emotions. So if you're really pissed, I'm going to speak to those who maybe are dealing with anger, because that's one of the things that Rodney helped me to heal was the anger that I had and felt just from seeing a Jehovah's Witness on the street with their stand. I'd be so mad and want to cross the street. And he helped me to clear and process that. And a lot of it had to do with the shunning and the shame of why am I the one that's wrong or been cast away. So thank you always for that, Rodney. And so when you move your hands back and forth, notice how fast they're moving. Because when you're really agitated or you have a lot of emotion that is festering, your hands will move quite quickly. And it's just telling you how fast your brain is moving in that process. So as you are tapping your leg on each side, say the things that are hard. This hurts, or, why have I been forgotten, or why am I shunned, or I don't understand. And it's actually naming how you feel and the emotions, because in your brain can actually help you to move through it versus I feel stressed or I feel alone or whatever it is. The more you can name your emotions, the more your body can help you to move through it. And so you just keep going left, right, tapping the legs until You say everything that's on your mind, and you can say it out loud or in your heart or in your head. But you'll get to a point where you're done festering and saying all the hard things, and then you'll get an idea. And that's when you know you've cleared and moved through that emotion. And maybe the idea is to write a letter or to go for a walk, or maybe a way to process this differently, or write the letter first of what you want to say to them so that you've practiced it before you actually write the real message, or do the call. But that way you're prepared and you've done something where you're in control. You're not a victim. Nobody is. We have full control, but this is a tool that can help you to feel more empowered from within. And thank you again.
Love it. I love it. Again, when you get those letters, if you do get a letter like the memorial, like you said, your friend got the letter for the memorial, just right off the bat, take over the conversation. Witnesses are used to leading a conversation. They like to be in the driver's seat. As long as you play along, see, anger is playing along. They're used to that. That's playing along, whether you know it or not. They're used to that. And that's what happens when you leave Jehovah. You get angry, don't you? That's what they think. So immediately, if you were to get a letter, or someone to contact you about the memorial, no, I'm not interested. I've gone in a different path in my life entirely. Anyway, how's the family? How's the kids? Take over the conversation, and you direct it where you want the conversation to go, and you make it about them. What's people's favorite subject in life? Themselves. Again, what's in it for me? You talk about them. And then you ask the questions that I laid out earlier. And somebody asked me to share it. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat later, those questions. Take over the conversation, always. When you deal with a Jehovah Witness, you take over the conversation and you decide when it's over. That's part of taking over the conversation. When you're done talking, you go. You see, that it always makes it where the person wasn't ready to end the conversation because they haven't had an opportunity to circle it back around to where they want to circle it back around to. Always, the person who ends the conversation is the one who was in control. Let me ask a question. Ladies, you'll get this. Say you're a single lady, and someone approaches you and starts talking to you, right? And that person exudes confidence, right? So he's taking the power. He exudes confidence. Now you're curious about this person, and this person says, "Good talking to you. Hope I run into you again." Or maybe you exchange numbers, but he ends the conversation. You are now so attracted to that dude, right? Because he didn't keep pushing it to an agenda. He left. Oh my God. You're not used to that because you usually have to chase guys away. But when a guy is in control, he ends the conversation. Same with witnesses. You control the conversation. You determine how long it is. You end it. You give them what you wanted them to hear. You don't play the role of receiving, you give. Take over all conversations when dealing with a witness, even with your mom and dad. You got to show something that they're not used to. See, it's so easy to reprise the role that you played. A lot of us can feel like we're 15, 16 years old when dealing with our parents. Now we can reprise a role and they talk to us the same way. And then we get disgusted at the end. Why they act like that? Why they say that? Because you're reprising a role. That's the dynamic between the two of you. That's what we got to stop doing. Take control always. Okay.
Can I
Next.
share a little more about what you just said, like at the beginning there? That's really important, is to say thank you for thinking of me. And whether you want to say I've gone on another path, or another way to say it is a polite way of saying no. But I think that when you can thank them for thinking of you, it diffuses. They may be, ready for you to be yelling at them or angry or something, but that gesture, I think, just helps to diffuse the situation, because then it's the law of reciprocity. They'll be like, oh, they're thanking me for the invitation, even though you don't have to go. but it's just a nice thought. And then, like you said, has the family or bring it something else. But I think that's really important as a way of sharing love between them, or between you and your family, is, yeah, that thanking them for the invitation.
Because they did think of you. I mean, they love you. It's just they're just thinking of you through the lens that they look at life through. So thank them for that. They really do care. I mean, you gotta, when you think of witnesses, you have to remember how you saw things as a witness. They truly think that we're gonna die. They truly think they're trying to save our soul. I mean, they think that. So, I mean, if that's what you believe, I'm grateful that I'm at the top of your list. If there's if I knew that the world was ending and I reached out to any one of you, like if I knew, somebody's gonna bomb your town, and the first person I come is to your town is Christine. Christine's going, thank you, Rodney. You could have talked to a whole bunch of other people, but you came for me first. I mean, really look at it that way. They do care about you. It's just they have their twisted way of looking at the world. Remember this. For those of you who are really, really distraught with the shunning, in life, we have to accept things we can't control. We do. We have to accept maybe a physical limitation. Some people have gotten in car accidents and have to accept that the wheelchair is reality. Um, we can't be destroyed because we lost a relationship, regardless of who it is. In life, people die. We lose people anyway. And we can't be destroyed because somebody's passed on, right? Remember, do not let any particular relationship destroy you. We do need relationships. We are communal, creatures. We need community, but you don't need any particular relationship. And I say this with a son who's shunning me. He's not going to ruin my life. I'm not going to sit here and rot worrying about my son not talking to me right now. I can't. I got stuff to do. We all got stuff to do. I got a purpose in life, and I'm not going to miss it because I'm being shunned by someone I love. That's his journey. Hopefully, the journey circles back around, but I can't wait and rot and be upset at things I can't control. That's a grown man making the decisions he thinks he has to make in his life. I got to keep it moving. So do all of you. Um, anyone else? Desiree?
I guess I'll speak from a younger millennial space. And the reason,
it's you folks that can't be controlled with fear, right there.
but also I think it's Gen X or Gen Alpha. I don't know. But because my sisters are younger than me, one's 26 and the other's 21, and they're still in the organization, but they don't go to the meeting anymore. So it'd be interesting to know how they felt about all of this, to be honest. They never were baptized. I was the one that was more active, trying to get baptized and everything. But I left early on because of the contradicting beliefs. And I could see deeper into the, I guess, oxymorons a lot of the times that they would speak on. And so being close to people that are in Bethel and being close to people that were higher in the congregations, I was able to see a lot of things that people weren't able to see. So I was able to stop myself from getting baptized from that situation. So I was just telling someone this 2 days ago, actually. Like, they were asking me about how it was and what we believed in. And I just told them about, if you're disfellowship, things, the normal, and how, women can't wear pants and all of these different things. So now that this is changing, I'm just hearing about it. It's like, I know that they're trying to keep this younger group because, like, for instance, my youngest sister, she never believed it since she was like 7. She's like, nope, I don't believe it. And she would tell my mom, no, I don't believe it. And it's like the confidence that these younger kids have, they're just so bold and they're just like, nope, I don't care what you think. And I was on the verge of that too, but we still had more, I wouldn't say respect. It was more so of like a humble fear where we're like, we don't want to disappoint anyone. This is what we're supposed to believe. And, the younger generation is just not having it. And it does show so much of what this society is growing towards is that we are fearless in a way. And, I think it's a good opportunity for us to look within ourselves even more now because like Christine said and like you said, Rodney, there's people that are going to be disappointed in this or be angry. And Gary, I think you mentioned this too, like some people are going to be kind of upset with the changes. They've went 20 plus years not being able to do these things that they were in trouble for. And like, for instance, one of my aunts, she was disfellowshipped and, her mom passed away and she didn't even want her to be there on her deathbed. And that was really hard for my aunt. And I think about how my granny would have approached the situation knowing that she was going to be taking her last breaths, soon. And she's not wanting her daughter to be there because she's disfellowshipped. That's really tough for people. So, I think about reaching out to my aunt. How do you feel about this? This is going to be tough for some people to really swallow. And that's where we need to have that empathy and having that open space where think about what it is these people are reaching out to you for. Yes, they do love you. However, sometimes love can be selfish, like you were mentioning, Rodney, about your father. What would be the purpose of waking him up right now? That's because you do love him. So you're not going to make that conscious decision to go and do that. So same with these, they're so stuck in their mind. She's like a mother to me. She reaches out to me all the time. She's in Bethel and she reached out to me yesterday about the memorial. And I've just not been responding. Any of her texts, I haven't been responding. And it's a constant thing where she's reaching out to me and it is overwhelming. But at the same time, I know that I have to do what's best for me. So if anyone feels like they're getting reached out to and you don't feel like you can respond to them, don't. It's not your job to make the mends of that relationship if you don't think you're in a healthy enough position to do it. You have to do it on your own terms. They open the invitation for you to, hey, I want to talk to you. So then you do it on your own time. That's what they're doing now. So you can't allow this change to change you, really. You have to just move in love. And the first thing you have to do is love yourself.
Yeah. And also, too, for some, to really live a life in alignment will help you, right? So I think for a lot of us, we can be really afraid of disappointing people. But sometimes just telling those people that I'm on a different page now. I've taken another path in life. We don't need to discuss that. I want to respect your beliefs and I'd appreciate the same back. Anyway, love you. And then you make it about them. And if they begin to X you out entirely, that's on them because you left it in love. You didn't argue with them. You didn't try to prove something to them. You just let them know this is where I'm at. I'm being very transparent with you. And because I love you, I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. This is where I'm at. But as people, tell me about you. How are you? Right? And if they decide to cut you off, that means the relationship wasn't what we thought it was. It was a relationship strictly of agenda. Right? How many of you ladies have had a guy go, no, I'm cool. We could just be friends. And if it don't go any further, they disappear. How many times have that happened? Same thing. Same thing. That wasn't really your friend, right? So one thing in life, do not fear disappointing people. When you stand up for yourself, you will disappoint some. Trust me, right? So that's when you really step into yourself, and that's when you step into your power. Very good share, Desiree. Dean, Dean, you have any?
Yeah, I just want to say I think somehow I think sometimes there's been a lot looked when I listen to the whole thing. I'm just kind of going, there's not a hell of a lot of change here, and I'm kind of thinking I think people are reading too much into this and hoping they're going to go back to the days of yonder, of what their life was like and the friendships and the relationships and everything they had. And you're going, you weren't that person. I mean, even if it was 5 years ago, you're a very different person now, particularly if you've moved away. And it's very interesting because I'm going through this a very similar phase at this point, and it's one of my realizations. I said to a friend the other day, I said, you know what, I'm hanging on to a life in the past that what could possibly be, but it's in the past. It can never happen because that relationship is gone. For instance, my marriage, it's over. I can try and figure out how much better it could be, but it can't be. It's over. And if while I'm hanging on to that, I'm foregoing a future life. And there's thousands of people that are going to cross my path in the next few years. But if I'm hanging on to something else, those people coming in will just go straight past. And it's that's very much that thing of just letting go of what's in the past and saying, okay, well, what am I doing about my future? What am I doing about my life now? Who am I becoming? And I think the worrying thing, I mean, one comment I would make is that the more anger and sort of emotions that people are experiencing this time, I think just relates to how much they really are still buying into the rules that they were brought up with. And I kind of think that's the stopping point, is to stop and say, I mean, somebody just passed a comment about myself and my marriage. I heard it last week and it hurt me hard. And I just stopped to myself and I thought, why is this affecting me so badly? It's a long time ago. But one of the things I had to sit and look at and was saying, is there something I can change to make me a better person for another relationship? I cannot change a past relationship, but I have to look at the truth and the validity of somebody saying something about me. And I think that's whenever that emotion comes up. And I think what I'm sort of seeing on the Facebook posts is there's a lot of people still deeply, deeply invested in the JW beliefs. And that's frightening, because particularly if they're moving on.
Yeah, one great thing you said is that we change.
Yeah.
Right. So lose the fantasy that it would be the same. I've said this many times, that only people who are growing themselves can see the growth of another person. So when you talk to your family, a lot of times they're not talking to you. They're talking of a version of you that was years ago. None of my family talks to me. I've got to pretend to be somebody I'm not even anymore to have a discussion, because my family is very surface. Right? All witnesses are surface. If you get deep, you'll leave the religion. Trust me, they're all surface. Right? So, I like to dwell here. I like to talk about meaty stuff. But if I'm around my family, it's all got to be light. So I kind of give them the person they're trying to talk to just to have the discussion. But there's a part of me always is like, this is painful. Oh my God, when do I leave? Right. So remember, and then that's not just with witnesses. Living in Vegas, I get all kinds of, every week somebody's coming through. I got to meet somebody this afternoon. Every week somebody's here. And sometimes it's people from high school. And there are people from high school like, oh my God, you are still mentally 19. Right. And they talk to you like it was yesterday that you were in high school. Right. And there's some people that just don't grow, and there are other people that do. And you have these meaty conversations, you catch up with each other. But there's some people that are always the same. So don't fool yourself thinking it would be that great of a thing, because if the witnesses were absolutely done with shunning, if my family embraced me, I still wouldn't hang out with them.
Yeah.
I'd say hello, I'd give them love, right? But we're not hanging out barbecuing for 2 or 3 hours, because it make me crazy what they talk about. Okay, Gary?
Yeah. I wanted to comment on that. I love the way Dean put that right from the first word, and tie it into something that Desiree said around the middle of her part. I didn't leave the JWs because I couldn't wear a beard. And I doubt anybody has ever left the JWs because they couldn't wear a beard. I didn't leave them because I had to wear a tie, even though I hated wearing ties, and I still do. I don't even own a tie, actually. I doubt anybody has ever left the JWs because they had to wear a tie. I don't know any woman that ever left because she couldn't wear slacks, or because we had to report field service a certain way. Nobody ever leaves because of those things. It's something much, much bigger, much higher principles, learning that this isn't true, that isn't true, learning about the lax attitude toward or lax treatment of pedophilia. It's much, much, much bigger things that have caused us to leave and caused us to be shunned. Now, I know this topic today is not about all of those changes. It's mainly about shunning, which is a bit more significant because people are thinking maybe this is going to be an opening, or maybe I have to put up with more obnoxious calls from the elders or from my mom or whoever. So it is more significant. That's why it's being addressed. So I'm not trying to minimize anything, but just think about all these changes as really not significant. It's what's really significant is why did we actually leave? What did we learn that made us leave? And just never forget that.
Yeah, and you said earlier, Gary, and I said it too, that change will always be. Work to get to a point where what the JWs do doesn't matter. I don't care if the principal of my high school got fired. I've been out of high school for many, many, many years. I don't care. I don't care if the curriculum's changing in high school. I don't care. I'm not in high school, right? You get to a point where it just doesn't matter for what you're building today. Like I said, we address this because family are coming back into your life. So definitely we want to know how to handle that. But all these other changes, and trust me, there'll be more because you got to keep people in. Don't let it rock your world because it doesn't affect your world. If you're not in it, you're just not in it. What they do is of no consequence to you. So they might have a new light that, hey, we got to get in the spaceship and Elon Musk is taking us to Mars and that's where the new world is. I don't care. You want to have some crazy belief? I don't care, right? Because we've only have so much life to live. And we gave so much of it to the JWs already. Why would we give any more energy? We only have so much bandwidth, which means your mind can only handle so much stuff. Don't let what the JWs do take up so much of that bandwidth because you won't have enough to move your life forward. You have a reason that you're here. You have a purpose. You have gifts and talents to share with the planet, to help add value to other people's lives. Don't let a religion that you're no longer a part of steal that from you. Let's read some of the comments, some of the questions. Somebody asked, what if your family doesn't reach out to them? Should we reach out to you? Should you reach out to them? Yeah, if you want to. But if you reach out to your family, just catch them up with your life. Send some pictures, send them a gift certificate to eat at a restaurant, do something nice to them. But again, if you do these things, do it with no attachment to the result. If you do something for your family, have no attachment to the result, send love one way, and trust me, it affects them whether they tell you or not. It does. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. I gotta go.
My friends, well, we're ending anyway. Thank you, panel, for being on. I really honor the fact that you spend a part of your Sundays with us, because Sundays are supposed to be a day. It's kind of a me day, isn't it? But for you to share with everybody else, I always appreciate it. Thank you for the people that were watching live. As anticipated, that was our biggest audience ever, live audience. And a whole bunch of people are going to watch us on the replay. Thank you for joining us. We like to be talking to someone. So, my friends, remember, stay in your power. Don't shrink. Don't let the JW changes rattle your life. You are in the power position. They are small. You are big. Live like it. See that you are an expanding consciousness. Go out there and make this week an amazing week for yourself, and do something that you enjoy today. Have a happy Sunday Fun Day. See you next week.